Okay, this is part 2 of the video. So the first sensor I'm going to install is for the grain train. As the locomotive comes underneath the overhang on my co-op, I want it to stop, somewhere in here. And I don't have to use the same locomotive here, so I can put this sensor, fairly close here. And then when the sensor triggers, I can wait a millisecond or 2 milliseconds, depending on how long the locomotive is that I'm using, so that the first car lines up underneath the chute. So I'm going to remove my little co-op. And I'm going to drill a hole right smack in the middle of this track, even though those IR sensors are a little bit wider. All right, now down through the plywood. Okay, and I made sure there was no cross support underneath that hole. Then I'm going to get under the layout and use my hole drill bit. So this will go right through that hole I drilled and keep this lined up, and that's exactly the size of my my PVC pipe. So here we go to the next step. All right, here's my hole, pilot hole, and I put a piece of tape right where I want to stop drilling so I don't get up into the track too far. So here we go. Drill out that plywood. Okay, I'm back. Here's my plywood piece. I think you can see that. So now I'm going to drill out some of that foam. Okay, that should be all I need to do. Under here. Okay, I'm back on top, and the only thing you missed was me using my 1-inch drill to clear out the foam under there. And now here's the hole. I'm going to have to widen it out a little bit. Just use my drill and just open that up lengthwise so both those sensors can stick through there. Now I'll pick up when I have that installed. Okay, this picture shows the oblong hole I've drilled in the track. Tried to keep as much tie in there as I could. This is the tips of the sensors that'll stick up right level with the railroad ties. That's how that's going to work. Okay, model railroad fans, I hadn't thought through to the completion of how this was going to work, so what I realized after putting this up through the hole is I can't get that screw out while it's up in the hole. Yeah, that was kind of stupid, because I'm going to put some liquid nails on this thing and push it up in there. So we go to plan B, which plan B is I cut off just a little bit of that. I also realized these sensors need to stick up above the pipe, above this pipe. So I thought, well, I'm going to have something just to kind of support that sensor under there. So I started digging through my leftover parts, and I found these transformer fins out of the substation. So I cut a little piece of plastic tubing, and I'll put this right over there, and that'll support the bottom of the sensor. A couple of screws in there hold that sensor in place, or keep the plate up. This will be glued into the foam, so it's not going to come out. So I think that's going to work. So I'm going to let this glue dry, and we'll be back with our next segment. Okay, Modern Railroad fans, this segment is on how I'm going to wire the IR sensor. So coming out of the sensor, I've got these wires. They're called DuPont wires. And you can get them with 2 male ends. You can get them with a male and a female end. And I suppose you can get them with 2 female ends, I'm not sure. So since my sensors are real close to my DC bus wire, all I'm going to do is connect a couple of these wires together here. Okay, and then on this end, I put in a different kind of connector here. This piece clamps around the wire, and then it slides in here so it can be taken out. And then I put some shrink wrap around it. I use my vice grips to actually cut off the tip of this connector here, and then use my vice grips to smash down on that. Here's a original, and the hole down in there where the metal is a ways, so I just cut this bigger part off. So that's how I'll connect the 2 power wires into my DC bus line. And then the sensor wire, I'm going to have to run quite a ways over to this connector. And I'll put it close to the edge of my layout where I keep my workbench for my computer. That will stick in there. And then I'll have another set which I'll have female ends on. So this will go here. So I'll be able to connect and disconnect all the sensor wires at once. You see how that worked. Anyway, that does go on there. Then I'll run another set of wires clear over here to my Arduino, where another one of these gizmos will plug in over here. So very easily I can unplug all the wires at once from the Arduino, or I can unplug them all where it connects into the layout. Yeah. So I think that's going to work. Here's my little plate. It's kind of a little quickie made up thing you saw in my other video. So I got my tube stuck in the plywood, and it's drying. The glue is drying. So then I'll be able to stick my sensor up in the tube. This will then go underneath like that. Now, if you can quite see that, let me get my big thumb out of the way. That'll go in there like that, and support the sensor, so I can unscrew it if I ever have to take it apart, reset it, or something like that. So that's how that's going to go. Now, I could use some help. You guys with those 3D printers, I'd be really willing and happy to pay you to make about a dozen of these things. And if you're interested, just leave your email address in the comments, and I'll give you the detailed specs on it. But I think that'd be a lot easier to have it, printed, 3D printed. I don't think it'd be too hard. This can just be flat. That can be squared, and that to be round. So anyway, if anybody's willing to help me out, I'd sure be willing to pay you for your time and effort and whatever profit you need. So that's the end of this segment. The next segment, you're going to see the whole thing installed, and hopefully, and I say hopefully, it'll be working. Okay, there's my sensor active under the track. Got this train headed back to cover him. So let's watch over here. See him change. There he went, number 25. See what happens when he clears. Okay, cleared. Okay, it's working. Okay, you saw that sensor working. What I've done is I've gone back to 100% Arduino DCC++, and I've hardwired the sensor directly into the Arduino, and I've powered the sensor off the motor shield. I was powering it off my DC bus line, and it was running really hot. So I must have too much power going to that bus line. That's when I'm running the DigiKeys DR4018 snap switch controller. So I'm going to have to put another, I'm going to have to break those wires apart and use a smaller power supply. I think it wants 5 volts. That's what I got the Arduino plugged into, so I'll try that and see how that works. But got the sensor put in, it works. Now I have to work on the wiring a little more.